The Okavango Delta floods inland each year, creating one of the world's few major inland deltas that turns desert into drifting islands of life. Do you know the Danakil Depression in Ethiopia lies below sea level and hides neon sulfur springs and salt lakes so extreme some microbes thrive where most life cannot? Victoria Falls drops nearly 108 meters into the Batoka Gorge, and its curtain stretches 1,708 meters wide, forming one of the planet's largest single sheets of falling water. Do you know Victoria Falls, known locally as Mosi-oa-Tunya, generates a permanent spray that nourishes a rainforest island, teeming with species unlike anywhere near Botswana? The Zambezi River swells in the rainy season until the falls roar like a moving cloud, scouring basalt and carving a series of gorges downstream. In the dry months, channels separate into thinner, jeweled ribbons that reveal the raw basalt shelves and hidden plunge pools. Local Tonga and Lozi communities tell stories of Mosi-oa-Tunya's spirit, shaping reverence, rituals, and the very names on the map. Beyond folklore, geologists trace the fall's jagged edges to volcanic fissures and ancient lava flows etched over millennia. At the precipice, water vapor creates a microclimate where orchids, figs, and ferns cling to spray-wet cliffs against all odds. This rainforest patch supports rare butterflies, birds, and amphibians that depend on the constant mist for survival. Adventure blends with danger here. Daredevil swimmers balance on the lip at Devil's Pool during low flow, staring into the abyss. On the river below, canoeists and rafters navigate currents born from that same plunging force, carrying the fall's energy downstream. Colonial history left bridges and hotels, but conservation battles now steer a fragile future between tourism, hydroelectric needs, and ecological protection. UNESCO designation seeks to preserve both spectacle and the unique ecological ribbon the spray sustains across two nations. From lookout points in Zambia and Zimbabwe, the site shifts with seasons. Thunderous white curtains or crystalline skeletons revealing the rock's architecture. Photographers and scientists alike return again and again, chasing light, mist, and the moving secrets hidden within each flow. If you follow the Zambezi from the falls, you encounter riverine islands, crocodile sunning spots, and communities shaped by the river's moods. That continuity binds Victoria Falls to the broader African landscape, where water's passage stitches deserts, wetlands, and savanna into one living system. Soon we'll cross to neighboring savannas, where the river's reduced flow nurtures entirely different life and livelihoods. For now, remember the falls as a living hinge between roaring water and the wide, thirsty continent beyond. Table Mountain slopes shelter over 2,200 plant species, a count higher than that of the entire British Isles. Do you know Table Mountain creates a tablecloth of cloud when moist Atlantic air is lifted over its plateau, sometimes spilling like a silent waterfall? That cloud veil is only one of the mountain's tricks. Another is its role as the heart of the Cape Floristic region, the smallest and richest of the world's 6 floral kingdoms. More than 80% of the plant life here is endemic, meaning visitors stand among living species found nowhere else on Earth. Walk the Platyclip Gorge Path or ride the rotating cable car, and you quickly sense how the mountain's ancient sandstone tells a geological story stretching back hundreds of millions of years. Those flat summit edges are the remnants of erosion-resistant Table Mountain group sandstone, layered and tilted by tectonic forces long before humans arrived. Beyond plants and rocks, Table Mountain is a wildlife stage. Dassies, rock hyraces, bask on sun-warmed ledges while fine-boss-fed sunbirds flit through heath-like shrubs. Predatory birds, like the resident peregrine falcon, use the cliffs as hunting perches, connecting the ecological web from sky to shrubland. For centuries, sailors used the mountain's silhouette as a beacon, its flat crown a constant on Cape shipping charts and in countless explorers' journals. Today, that human story continues in the careful conservation work of local botanical gardens, rangers, and volunteers who guard rare species against invasive threats and urban pressures. The mountain's cultural imprint is equally rich. Khoi and San peoples left oral histories tied to its peaks, and modern Capetonians claim it as a defining public space. Festivals, sunrise hikes, and quiet moments, watching the light slip over Lion's Head, make Table Mountain a place where nature and daily life entwine. The Avenue of the Baobabs near Morondava hosts 30 towering Aditsnaya Granditieri, some exceeding 8 centuries in age. Do you know the Avenue of the Baobabs once marked the edge of a vast rainforest and became a living monument to Madagascar's vanished woodlands? These trees aren't merely old, their swollen trunks store thousands of liters of water, a reservoir against the harsh dry season. At dusk, their silhouettes resemble root-like crowns, an optical trick that has inspired local myths about trees walking at night. Many trunks are hollowed by time and have been used as meeting halls, temporary shelters, and echoes of human history. One hollow baobab even sheltered postal shoppers and rumored gatherings during colonial times, a testament to human ingenuity. The deep fissures and burn scars on their bark tell stories of fires, cyclones, and centuries of island weather. Yet despite those scars, the baobabs persist, their seeds dispersed by bats and nocturnal moths, and sometimes nursed by lemurs. Walking between these giants at sunrise reveals giant trunks glowing like lanterns, a moment photographers chase worldwide. Local Sakalava storytellers say each tree holds the memory of a clan, making the avenue both ecological and cultural sanctuary. Preservation here is urgent. Agricultural expansion and charcoal production once pushed many baobabs to the brink. Community-led projects now fence seedlings, teach sustainable charcoal alternatives, and invite visitors to fund careful replanting. From the avenue, a dusty track curves inland toward Kirindi's dry forest, where fossa hunt and nocturnal life reveals Madagascar's uniqueness. That connection, baobab savanna spilling into dense limestone canyons, shows how fragile but interconnected Madagascar's ecosystems remain. Standing here, you feel time compressed, centuries visible in rings of bark, and in the slow, patient growth of each limb. This is not just a photograph's backdrop, but a living, breathing archive, demanding respect and careful stewardship. Later in the film, we'll follow a seed's journey from fruit to sprout, tracing how a lone baobab could reconstruct an entire landscape. But first, listen to the wind through the branches. It's the island speaking, insisting these giants must live on. When you leave the avenue, you'll take with you a map of resilience, of people and trees enduring together. And as the road leads toward the Tsingy, you'll see how Madagascar stitches the spectacular into a fragile, unforgettable whole. The Okavango Delta in Botswana is one of the planet's only major inland deltas that reverses rivers into a shimmering mosaic of lagoons and islands each flood season. Do you know the Okavango's floodwaters arrive from the Angolan highlands hundreds of kilometers away and can take months to transform arid sand into a blue-green labyrinth teeming with elephants, hippos, and rare bird life? In the dry season, the delta appears as an expanse of secret channels and hidden pans. But when the floods arrive, raptors and reedbeds multiply in a sudden burst of abundance. The seasonal pulse creates pockets of life where predators and prey follow a calendar written in water levels and green shoots. Chiefs Island, Moremi Game Reserve, and the sleepy palm-lined Mokoros are words that hint at how humans and animals have adapted to this watery landscape. Villages and camps sit like islands of calm, their rhythms synchronized to the rise and fall of the delta's arteries. Sunlight on the papyrus and reeds turns otherwise ordinary channels into highways for lechwe and sitatunga, antelopes that seem sculpted for the water. Boats glide silently past hippo troughs, while herons and kingfishers flash like living brushstrokes along the banks. The Okavango's groundwater-fed lagoons trap nutrients and build microhabitats where endemic fish and insects thrive against all odds. That complexity supports rare species like the African wild dog and elusive sitatunga, and it sustains migratory birds that arrive by the thousands. Conservation here is a fragile negotiation between seasonal opportunity and human need. A story of community scouts, protected corridors, and evolving tourism. Each season writes a new chapter, and every channel can change course, reminding us how dynamic and precious this inland sea truly is. Deadvlei's bleached white clay pan is cradled between some of Earth's tallest orange sand dunes, creating one of the planet's most extreme contrast arrests. Do you know that the gnarled camel thorn trees in Deadvlei have stood skeletal and unrotted for over 9 centuries because the hyper-arid Namib Desert prevents decomposition? When a drought followed a period of floods centuries ago, the acacia forests that once grew here died, leaving blackened trunks petrified against the pale pan. The juxtaposition of ebony trees, blinding white clay, and towering rust-red dunes produces photographs so surreal, some scientists once suspected they were staged. Early morning light paints the dunes in gradients so vivid they reveal wind patterns that have shaped the desert for millennia. Walk to the tallest ridge, and you can peer into the soft, soundless hush of Deadvlei, where every footprint seems to vanish into geological memory. Birdsong is rare here. Instead, the silence is broken by the whisper of sand slipping down dune faces, a reminder that time in this place moves in grains. Photographers chase the low-angle sun to capture the tree's deep shadows, but conservationists warn that increasing visitors can disturb fragile desert crusts that took centuries to form. Deadvlei links directly to Sossusvlei, where the dunes feed the plains, and to Caesarium Canyon, which once channeled the brief seasonal floods that nourished the now-dead forest. Understanding that connection explains why Deadvlei is not an isolated curiosity, but a symptom of climatic shifts and ancient watercourses in Namibia's interior. In this episode, we'll trace those hidden waterways, climb the living dunes, and listen to geologists and local custodians explain how a desert preserves its past. By the end, you'll see Deadvlei not just as a photographic spectacle, but as a key chapter in the Namibe's fragile ecological story. Spitzkoppe's granite peaks rise like islands from Namibia's flat desert. Their rocks over 1.6 billion years old and carved into soaring arches and balanced towers found in only a few places on Earth. Do you know Spitzkoppe hides ancient sand paintings beneath overhangs and seasonal rock pools that suddenly mirror the sky after rare desert rains? At dawn, the granite takes on deep oranges, revealing veins and hollows that climbers and artists have celebrated for generations. Local guides point out faint footsteps and painted ibex, scenes that connect human storylines to the mountain's geological one. Campers wake inside domes of stone where wind has sculpted shelters and stars pour down with a clarity few places can match. You can trace the line of the horizon to the distant Namib dunes and the silhouette of Brandberg, tying Spitzkoppe to a larger Namibian tapestry. The summit, known as the Matterhorn of Namibia, demands careful scrambling rather than mechanical climbing, rewarding those who reach it with 360-degree vistas. Down below, tiny life persists in crevices, lichens, hardy aloes, and secret springs that sustain insects and migrating birds after storms. Photographers seek the ephemeral pools that reflect sculpted rock, chasing images that exist only briefly before the desert reclaims them. Archaeologists study the pigments and pigments' placement, decoding stories of hunting, ritual, and weather recorded millennia ago. At dusk, the rocks hum with changing temperatures, and local storytellers recall how the peaks guided ancient peoples across arid plains. This human thread links Spitzkoppe to nearby cultural sites, inviting the next segment of our journey toward Damaraland's petrified rivers and living rock art. Every boulder seems to have a name and a legend, and each legend nudges us to look further, to the red dunes, to hidden water, to the routes people used to cross this vast land. In the quiet between wind gusts, you realize Spitzkoppe is not an isolated attraction, but a junction where geology, history, and survival meet. Visiting here is to witness how extremes create beauty, from the slow patience of stone to the sudden brilliance of a rain-filled pool. One of the oldest and deepest canyons on Earth, the Fish River Canyon in Namibia, carves a 160-kilometer wound through 2-billion-year-old bedrock. Do you know Fish River Canyon's layered rocks record 500 million years of oceans, volcanism, and continental collisions few landscapes reveal so plainly? At its widest, the gorge stretches nearly 27 kilometers and plunges more than 550 meters from rim to riverbed, dwarfing nearby valleys. The Fish River did not carve this overnight. Tectonic uplift and catastrophic floods over eons scoured the channel into the harsh Namibian landscape. Hikers on the official trail face searing daytime heat, sharp rock, and nights under crystalline stars that feel almost impossibly close. Yet wildlife persists. Klipspringer antelopes hop ledges, bearded vultures ride thermals, and tenacious succulents eke out life in rocky fissures. Scientists study the canyon to understand ancient climates, while local Nama and Himba stories anchor human memory to these stone corridors. From the rim, braided riverbeds and the canyon's orange cliffs reshape perspective, making maps look like miniature testaments to scale and time. Geology here ties into Namibia's wider drama. The same forces that cut Fish River sculpt the dunes of Deadvlei and the wind-swept Skeleton Coast. Travel east and highlands give way to this great gorge. Travel west and the coastal fogs and shipwrecks tell a different, salt-stained chapter. Standing at the rim, you realize Fish River Canyon is not merely a scenic stop, but a geological ledger of deep time and relentless erosion. Hold this image as we move on, because understanding Fish River's scars helps decode the hidden forces shaping other African wonders we will soon encounter. The Danakil Depression in Ethiopia is one of the lowest, hottest places on Earth, where hydrothermal fields and sulfur springs create otherworldly neon pools and salt formations. Do you know the Danakil Depression sits over a diverging tectonic rift where magma approaches the surface, feeding lava lakes like Erta Ale and painting the ground in surreal colors? Here, salt flats ripple like frozen waves, harvested by afar caravans who have crossed this desert for centuries. Their caravans trundle with camels loaded with salt slabs, following routes unchanged since antiquity. Extremophile microbes color the alkaline pools brilliant green, yellow, and turquoise, evidence of life adapted to scalding acidity. Steam vents hiss and mineral chimneys grow as geothermal chemistry sculpts landscapes that seem carved by an alien hand. The Erta Ale volcano, connected to the Danakil Trough, holds one of the world's few persistent lava lakes, flickering like a molten heart. Geologists come for the exposed mantle and the rare chance to witness continental plates pull apart, a slow-motion glimpse of planet-making. Photographers chase color gradients between sulfur, iron, and salt, while scientists sample microbial mats that expand the known limits of life. Yet human stories are woven into this furnace, salt traded across regions, rituals tied to specific springs, and a resilience that defines local culture. Leaving Danakil, the trail folds into the broader Rift Valley, a corridor of volcanoes, lakes, and highlands that bind Ethiopia's dramatic geography. To stand on a salt pan and watch steam rise from a lime green pool is to face a place where Earth's chemistry is on public display, raw and unpolished. What this region teaches us about survival, tectonics, and the extremities of life will change how you imagine deserts and their buried secrets. The White Desert of Egypt conceals towering chalk formations sculpted into mushroom and penguin shapes, a geological rarity found in only a few places on Earth. Do you know the White Desert, El Beida, still holds fossilized sea life and ancient shoreline deposits, proof that this arid expanse was once an ocean floor. Visitors who cross its pale sands at night speak of an uncanny silence as ghostly pillars rise from the plain like frozen waves. Wind and grit have carved the chalk into delicate pedestals and surreal statues over millennia, leaving surfaces that cool and reflect light in unexpected ways. At first light, the formations glow against a watercolor sky, and scattered black basalt outcrops create a startling, high-contrast landscape. Guides from the surrounding oases point out tiny shell fragments and ripple marks in stone, geological fingerprints of a vanished sea. The reserve around Farafra is more than a gallery of rock. It is a record of climate swings and shifting ecosystems encoded in layered chalk. Researchers date these layers to map a dramatic transition from marine to desert conditions, offering clues to North Africa's deep past. Campfires thrown against white spires produce silhouettes that seem to tell stories older than language, while the night sky sharpens into an almost tactile ceiling. From here, travelers often thread onward toward Bahariya and Dakhla, where palms and springs stand in stark contrast to these chalk sentinels. Caravan paths once connected these sites, linking freshwater oases to mineral plateaus and fertile valleys beyond the desert's edge. Walking among the formations, you can still discover petroglyph fragments and faint campsite traces that hint at centuries of human passage. Photographers chase the drifting shadows while scientists measure erosion patterns that might illuminate landscapes on other planets. The White Desert stands as a place where geology, archaeology, and local lore converge, a strange and compelling chapter in Africa's vast story. The high Atlas throws a narrow, snow-fed ribbon of life into the arid plains, and it is that rare intersection of mountain and desert that shaped Aït Benhaddou. Do you know Aït Benhaddou once protected caravan wealth because its Caesar sits at a desert passage where Atlas meltwaters made palm groves possible? Perched on a hill above the Onila Valley, the earthen citadel looks like a mirage, but is actually a living fortress of sun-baked mud bricks and carved wooden beams. Inside its walls, narrow lanes, communal granaries, and towered houses still tell of trade in gold, salt, and spices that flowed through here for centuries. What most visitors miss is how ingenious the builders were. Rooftops and alleys were planned to channel cool breezes and capture scarce water into subterranean cisterns. Those cisterns and terraced fields kept whole communities alive. Between raids and dry seasons, a hidden hydraulic memory carved into the clay. Restorers today still use traditional pisse techniques, pounding local clay into molds, so every repair echoes methods centuries old. That continuity is why the Khazar can seem frozen in time for film directors while remaining stubbornly, surprisingly modern as a heritage village. You might recognize its silhouette from major films and series, but the true spectacle is how the light turns the mud walls from ochre to molten copper at dusk. Local families still live in adjacent newer houses, while the ancient towers stand as silent witnesses to pilgrimages, trade treaties, and shifting borders. From this point, the desert opens into routes that led across the Dra and toward Timbuktu, which is why Aït Benhaddou mattered far beyond its adobe walls. There are secret doorways and storage rooms few guides mention, small carved niches for lamps and prayer, practical details that reveal daily life centuries ago. Each crumbling facade holds layers of social history. Berber clan symbols, Ottoman-era repairs, and colonial-era restorations stitched together in clay. Understanding Aït Benhaddou is to read a topography of survival, how architecture held communities in a brutal landscape by turning scarcity into design. And when you follow the channeling of water down the valley, you start to see a pattern that links this Khazar to other hidden settlements ringing the Atlas foothills. By the end of this segment, you will see why UNESCO listed it, not merely for its cinematic fame, but as a masterclass in human adaptation to extremes. Stay with us, and the next chapter will trace those water roads outward, from Aït Benhaddou into the long caravan arteries of southern Morocco. Ngorongoro crater holds a sealed volcanic bowl, measuring nearly 260 square kilometers and plunging 600 meters from rim to floor. Do Do you know Ngorongoro crater is the world's largest unbroken caldera and sustains an astonishing density of lions, elephants, and black rhinos that few places can match? Inside that bowl, grasslands, swamps, and a shallow soda lake create microclimates where life stacks itself like a vertical ecosystem. The crater's age and isolation have preserved behaviors and populations that resemble a living museum of East African wildlife. Here, predator and prey cycle visibly in a single day. Lions stalking wildebeest under sun, while hippos wallow nearby. Local Maasai communities graze their cattle along the crater rim, weaving human tradition into an ancient natural rhythm. Migratory herds from the Serengeti briefly funnel through the crater's rim, linking Ngorongoro to one of the planet's greatest wildlife highways. That seasonal flow is the thread that ties the crater to the vast plains beyond, showing how one protected basin supports a larger ecological tapestry. Archaeological sites on the crater slopes reveal early human footsteps and stone tools dating back hundreds of thousands of years. Those discoveries hint that Ngorongoro was not just a wildlife sanctuary, but a cradle where early humans. From the rim you can look down and read an entire ecosystem like paragraphs on a page, each species a sentence in a living narrative. But beneath the postcard scene lie surprising tensions: invasive plant growth, water chemistry changes, and the challenge of keeping large predators within genetic reach. Visiting Ngorongoro is to witness how geological catastrophe became ecological fortune, transforming a volcanic collapse into a refuge for life. And as you leave the crater rim, that same geology leads your eye across to the Serengeti Plains, inviting the next chapter of the journey. Scientists still monitor the crater's secret rhythms, from soil microbes to the migratory memory of wildebeest, searching for clues about resilience in a changing climate. Each data point here helps shape conservation models used across Africa, making Ngorongoro a laboratory as much as a sanctuary. When night falls, the crater sleeps under a sky that feels deeper than anywhere else, and the silence tells of a long evolutionary bargain between land and life. This is where geology, culture and wildlife converge, and where your journey through Tanzania's wild heart must continue. Hidden behind a ribbon of red earth and towering baobabs lies Tsingy de Bemaraha, one of the planet's most extreme limestone labyrinths, where razor-sharp pinnacles reach 60 meters into the sky. Do you know, Tsingy de Bemaraha is one of the few places on Earth where an entire ecosystem clings to the teeth of stone, sheltering species found nowhere else. Walking here feels like navigating a petrified thunderstorm. Narrow canyons, suspended bridges, and precarious plateaus carved over millions of years. The word Tsingy itself means where one cannot walk barefoot, a warning and a promise of otherworldly geometry. Beneath those serrated ridges, microclimates hide caves lush with palms, endemic orchids, and colonies of rare lemurs that leap from limestone tooth to limestone tooth. From the air, the formations shimmer like a gray ocean, frozen in mid-collapse. Yet on the ground, each crevice hosts a miniature rainforest of its own. Geologists trace Tsingy's birth to ancient coral reefs, uplifted and dissolved into a forest of stone, making it a fossil atlas of Madagascar's distant seas. For naturalists, it's a living laboratory where adaptation writes dramatic chapters. Species that evolved to live on cliffs, to drink mist, to hide in cracks only inches wide. By the time you climb to a lookout and stare down into the gray forest, the Tsingy has already rewritten how you imagine what a forest can be. And as we leave the limestone teeth behind and head back toward coastal shores, the memory of those stone needles lingers, an invitation to keep exploring. Tsingy's silence is deceptive. At dusk, the forest of stone hums with life as chameleons, bats, and night frogs claim niches invisible by day. Research teams still discover species new to science here, reminding us that even well-trodden paths can hold secrets for those who look closely. In a country famous for baobabs and lemurs, the Tsingy stands as a sculpted cathedral, challenging our sense of scale and urging a slower, more attentive kind of travel. This is the place where geology becomes pottery, and every step forward is also a step into Madagascar's deep and fragile story. We began among the glassy salt pans and mirror lakes of the Madagascar, where trapped memories of ancient rivers still shape the land. From there, we followed the invisible threads that tie Botswana's floodplains to the sweeping grasslands of the Serengeti and the thunder of Victoria Falls, revealing a continent stitched together by water, wind, and migration. We traced the Nile's journey through Egypt into the heart of Sudan and South Sudan, watching how a single river sustains civilizations and wild places alike. Crossing from the desert edges into the dense green of the Congo Basin seas, we saw how life adapts in layers, canopy to forest floor, each ecosystem whispering secrets of survival. On Madagascar, evolution wrote its own rulebook, crafting lemurs and baobabs found nowhere else on Earth, and reminding us how isolation sparks uniqueness. Along the Atlantic coast, the cliffs of Morocco and the bustling spice markets of Dakar showed the human pulse that has long navigated these shores, trading ideas as freely as goods. From the windswept Cape of Good Hope to the red soils of the Rift Valley, every landscape led us to the next, a chain of environments connected by history, climate, and the movements of species. And beneath the ground, old stories are preserved, petrified forests, fossil base, and rock art that bind modern visitors to peoples who first read these lands. If anything remains after this journey, it is the reminder that Africa cannot be pinned down to a single image. It is a living mosaic, constantly remade by water, fire, migration, and human hands. So as we close this chapter, the continent still holds mysteries that will draw us back. The next migration, the next discovery, the next story waiting just beyond the horizon.